Are we not all excited to see Expedition 33, the masterpiece of the last 3 decades, win Game of the Year? After all, not a single game has been released in the genre of role-playing game since 1997 with FF7, right? Between these years, not a single RPG has been released, according to your average 33 fan. I mean, seriously guys, these people will pretend that nothing else has happened during these years, like straight up, nothing else has happened during this year. Not a single role-playing game has been released since then, right? This is why 33 is the most ridiculous, overt, fanboy, rage boy, fanboy, whatever you call it, right? Gaming community of all time. Way worse than League, way worse than Dota. These guys are ludicrously delusional, right? They will act that not a single good role-playing game, not just Western, Japanese, has been released, right, since 97. Where I can show you a list here, like 50 games that are all better than 33. My god, are they delusional. These people are the worst gaming community of all time. Like straight up, right? Like seriously, they will claim that since FF7, nothing has been released. Not even FF13, 15 or 16 or whatever. Not even FF10 perhaps, that's kind of where you draw the line, right? They will act like nothing happened since FF10 at best, right? And think about it, these people have seriously not played any of the games on this image here. We all know it, right? They haven't played a single game of this image here. Just last year, we had an amazing game called Romancing Saga 2. I would say it's a much better game than 33, but they didn't play it, right? We had another amazing game, Fantasia. They didn't play it either, right? We had so many good JRPGs since FF7, obviously, and these people haven't played a single one of them, right? This is the worst gaming community of all time. They're completely living in their own delusional world. Obviously inspired, right, by being absolute gaming tourists. Now, what is actually worse though, with them pretending that no other game has been good in the role-playing genre since 97, right, is that they will pretend that 33 has this unique, uber amazing gameplay. Oh, we never played a game before that has been turn-based or not turn-based or whatever, right? Even though we all know that a bunch of other games has done this in the past, right? I mean, after all, the most biggest famous franchise, Final Fantasy, in this genre, they change the gameplay every game, right? 15, 16 and so on don't have the same combat gameplay. What you're seeing here is a game that I love. It's called Restless of Fate, okay? This game has a crazy, unique role-playing element system. It's much more unique than 33. It's a much better system, and it was released like a decade ago, right? How can you pretend 33 is the first innovative game ever since, I don't know, FF1 or something? You will obviously only say that because you never actually played any other game in your life. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and explain to you every RPG for the last 30 years, right? My point is that we have games for this game where you have this weird, like, bullet hell combos thing into some kind of, I don't know, parkour or something. Is way more unique than 3 at least, that's my point. You have games like Valkyria Chronicles, where you're mixing strategy game with FPS and turn-based. You have games like Harvest Stella, where you're mixing RPG fights with farming. And you have amazing games like FF13 with an incredible good combat system. My main point is that we have, like, I don't know, 500 role-playing games that released over this 30 years, that not all of them, of course, have different combat systems, but they actually do have, like, maybe 200 unique ones. Just, as I mentioned, right, even in Final Fantasy alone, we have a new combat system for every Final Fantasy game, right? So it's just really hilarious, these people acting like, oh my god, this is like rhythm dance game that is 33. They're pretending that this is something that it's never been done before. Every Japanese role-playing game is just turn-based something. Where it's like, what? Have you actually ever played a Japanese role-playing game? Of course you haven't. That's the problem, man. It is pure game tourism. I mean, 16, after all, the latest Fantasy game, is pure real-time, right? So it's really funny to me when they're claiming that F33 is the first game to not be turn-based or something. Like, you haven't played a single game, right, in the genre, let's be honest here. That being said, I also bring up 16 here, because I want to be very clear here, right? Some people will cope and defend 33 by saying that the only reason that people hate it is because they are jealous people don't love 16, right? Where, of course, in actuality, FF16 is also a terrible video game. 16 is a worse game 33, and the reason why is because 16, of course, is brain-dead easy. It removed all the shared elements, right, of your Japanese role-playing games, making it real-time with no real character development, no real builds, no interesting items. It removed all the shared elements that FF games are famous for it. And 33 did the exact same thing. The main reason 33 is a terrible combat system is the exact same as 16, right? And I find it genuinely hilarious people keep comparing these two, saying that 33 is so much better, because they have the exact same issue, right? By removing everything called strategy, by removing importance of buffs and debuffs and actually what defenses build and so forth, right? And just having that as a brain dead thing where you just smash one button. Into the tree, you only have to use dodge or parry everything, or actually to go glass cannon and just punch it really, really fast, right? Use like 16. Both games are incredibly too easy and have basically removed everything that our Japanese turn-based games are famous for. And they are equally terrible. It's kind of hilarious to me. What I've seen though, most of the tree fans can't even understand what the big issue is with this terrible combat system, right? Or overall, how it's so incredibly easy. And what I keep comparing it to in my head is games like Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone and other trading card games, right? See, when you play a trading card game, half the fun, if not even most of the fun, is building your deck, right? You're opening your deck, thinking, oh, should I put this card in there? I'm playing white, blue, should I have a counter spell? What if my opponent plays that thing? Then I want that thing, I want to be able to remove. Will I need something that gives me a little bit of life, right? So most of trading card games is built around, what will I do if X thing happens? How do I defeat certain enemies or foes or situations, right? So half the gameplay is all about thinking ahead and preparing for the fight, right? This is very similar to a game like Fire Emblem, especially other, Japanese turn-based role-playing games. Before you actually go into the fight, right, half the battle is planning out, who should I bring with me? Do I need more healers? Do I need more tanks, right? What abilities do I need? These items. Maybe I need to change this character. Or I need to save an NPC over there. So I need a character with double movement. I need a character that can fly, right? Maybe flying and teleporting is needed to save the NPCs for it, right? That is the typical essence, right, of a Japanese role-playing. But because 33 is so brain-dead and easy, where you use parry and dodge everything, none of that actually is required, right? None of the preparation that, again, makes most RPGs fun, right? The tactics, strategies, is needed in 33. That's why it's so brain-dead and boring. And I keep calling it a dummy of a Souls game rather, right? Because it's basically like playing Dark Souls, but on easy mode, because you don't even have to, move. You have to use parry and dodge in a certain time, right? It's Sekiro on easy mode. That, I think, is a much more fair comparison to the game 33 than actually a typical Japanese role-playing. Now, if you go back to the image here, with the bunch of different games released in between, right? It really makes you think, because it isn't just that these people don't understand that they have, other role-playing games with good storyline and great cast and whatnot. Right? This video here is focusing on gameplay mechanics, right? We have like 100 other Japanese role-playing games with more unique, more interesting game mechanic systems, right? The 33, straight up, objectively speaking. And again, the big problem 33 from a gameplay standpoint, otherwise, is it has shadowed down too much, right? Of what make the genre what it is, right? It's incredibly just too noob friendly. And that's what I think is so funny too, because every time I see someone saying that, when they're trying to, berate you for saying that 33 isn't that good of a game, right? They say that, oh, but it rescued turn-based game and these things. No, it didn't. 33 did not save or innovate in the turn-based genre. It made it not a turn-based game, basically, right? It's a rhythm game. 33 isn't a turn-based game, really. It lacks all of the parts that makes a turn-based game. Because it only concerns itself, again, with parry and dodging. Like I said, right, removed everything that comes to pre-planning, so you can just enter any boss in this game and beat it without ever changing your build. You just never have to do that. Use glass cannon and everything, whatever, I don't care, right? It's so incredibly stupid how the system actually works, right? And it's sad, honestly, because I could see how you could easily fix the tree to make it a lot better. My point is, of course, that I can easily here, right, pick off 100 games that are better at certain parts the tree didn't do that well, right? Now, I'm not saying the tree is the worst game of all time, but it definitely is not the only good role-playing game in the last, 30 years, right? And the whole sentence of this thing is just so stupid that I have to explain this thing. I feel like I'm more having to explain to people that genuinely you have all the other games in between FF7 and 33, but they genuinely will refuse to believe this thing. It's really crazy. But I actually think it goes deeper than that. Because when you think about it, right, 33 is basically just another massive AAA slop game, right? It is incredibly easy, JR, drama, superficial characters, support, right? And the only game that 33 players have played before are games that Last of Us 2, right? These are non-gamers, right? They've played 2 or 3 other games in their life before. I'm genuinely meaning that. Not only have they not played any of these like 500 role-playing games in between these games, right, for the last 30 years, they've also haven't really played any other game, right? And I really mean that. They're very much, sloppy, right? Think about it. Ubisoft are basically the maker of 33, right? Because almost everyone that worked in that game left Ubisoft is before that, right? It's an UBISLOP game. How the map looks in that game, UBISLOP, red paints of yellow paints of white, it very much is an UBISLOP game. And this was even deeper why the Fanbase 3 is so incredible, toxic, absurdly game touristy. But perhaps the worst thing with 3 Fanbase is that they can't even conceptualize what a hard game is, right? I have seen them cope so much, pretending the game is hard, is because one single boss in the game has somewhat of a challenge, called Simon, because everything in the game is absurdly easy, okay? And even Simon is, yes, absurdly easy. If you play like Sekiro or whatever, Kazan before it, any other parry game, you can easily handle this game incredibly easy, right? But the bottom line is that there is no real single player game that is hard. See, I don't think these people even can conceptualize what hardness is, right? When I talk to these 3 fans, and I say that, oh, no, but Simon is very easy. No, it's easy. I'm like, yeah, but have you ever played like StarCraft 1, okay, against an actual like professional Korean player? Have you played like Street Fighter against an actual Japanese pro player? That's hard, okay? The pressure you have when you play this kind of games is incredible. It's hard to even explain, right? Because you feel like you're talking to a person that's never done any kind of sport in their life. It's like, no, but if someone is attacking you, you pressure this thing and that thing, right? It is so much harder to play a game like this than any single player game ever made, okay? Like the hardest like Dark Souls game, right, is never gonna be anything compared to like StarCraft. And I really mean it. This game is incredibly easy. Even Simon is like 1 out of 10, right, compared to an actual hard multiplayer game. And I feel it's honestly silly having to say that, right? But I mean it genuinely. Like even games like Sekiro or whatever, right, isn't that hard again compared to like Street Fighter, where you're playing against an actual good player, right? He's pressuring you as well. I mean, it's an incredible different experience playing like an actual like high master upwards Street Fighter player than just an NPC boss in a Souls game, right? It's never gonna be that hard. Like it's just conceptually how it works. But these people have never actually played a hard game, and honestly probably never a sporting game either for that life, right? They can't even conceptualize what hardness is, right? Because, like I said, even the hardest like Souls game is like maybe 3 out of 10 in hardness, right? Like StarCraft 1 in high level grandmaster play, it is so much unfathomably harder to play that than anything in a single player game is ever accomplished to be. Like 1,000 times more, right? And again, it's hard to even understand it if you never experienced that, right? I personally have played professionally in many different games, right? I used to pressure alone. Like I played a game this Friday on Monday, right? Magic Gathering for a few $100, right? Like I won, but whatever. And used to pressure alone when you're playing in the final, having to be like, oh shit, if I lose now, I will lose like $500. I have to like really play it correctly, right? And I managed to win in the round, and I get the money, right? Just that pressure alone is so much harder than a single game can ever be, right? A non-competitive game can ever be. And then when you remove all the elements, right, that makes the typical Japanese game popular, like thinking ahead, what should I do now? 10 steps, throw this guys, hit that, do this thing, right? When you remove all of that, what this game are famous for a single player aspect, right, which actually makes them hard, so to speak, hard in the single player sense, what is left then, right? You're left with a braindead, easy single player game. Now, I want to be very clear here. My videos used to be about, oh, 3 is so easy, whatever. That's my main point, right? But I was trying to illustrate how I think it's hilariously funny, sad, right? Talking to this incredible, terrible fanbase 33, because they're such incredible touristy noobs when it comes to video games that they cannot, I keep saying it, they can't even conceptualize what a hard game is, right? And if you compare it to sports or whatever, right, it's kind of like a person that has never actually played sports for reals, right? It's like a person that only throw, like a baseball with the dad, right, in the back in the garden, right? Oh yeah, my dad's throwing nice, and my mom is like, yeah. And then it actually goes, right, to the first actual competitive game, and it gets completely crushed, right, because people play it 10 times harder. This is genuinely how the 3 base feels like. It's like the people that had never left their bubble, right? Genuinely, never left their bubble. They never been outside their house. They never actually played any game whatsoever against any real person, right? And it's like they're living in their own reality, like seriously, right? In so many aspects, not only how the game isn't that innovative, how the storyline in the game is just straight up terrible in my opinion, but again, even without going into the storyline or whatever, right? From a mechanical standpoint, the game is not that hard. From a mechanical standpoint, the game isn't that innovative, right? And the people refuse to see that. There's even one game that I saw recently that is they're bullying these game developer, even though they actually developed the game before. This is actually what inspired me to make the video. This is another game here, right, called The Time We Have Left. That's very similar to the 3, like it's really similar, but they actually started their game development before to the 3. People are now accusing them for stealing to the 3 when they actually were out before, right? This is how obnoxious and terrible this fandom is, right? They see another game that actually has their date preview, the date out before 33, and they're blaming this game to steal it for 33. People are so incredibly ill-informed that they truly believe that no other game was released right between FF7 and 33, right? That seeing another game that actually started developing before 33, they believe it stole for 33, right? It's crazy. Like, it's goddamn crazy, man. Like I said, you can see something like Restless of Fate, right? There's a much more unique to 33. You jump around, you dodge stuff. They've stolen 33 too. That game was like 12 years ago, right? I can find you a bunch of games, right? Obviously, the Mario games are notoriously same 33. There's several of Super Mario games, Super Mario RPG games. They steal 33. This is incredibly how lost people are, right? Just last year alone, we had Saga 2, which is an amazing game, incredible good combat system, really good class system, very interesting world and so on, right, from a mechanical standpoint. We had Fantasia, which is made by the same persons that did FF7, okay, released last year. And we also, of course, had Yakuza 8, which was the best game last year. An amazing game last year, right? Do you think, right, that these 33 fanboys have played any of these games? None of them. They haven't played any of them. They're acting like 33 is this magical, amazing indie, so they pop out of nowhere, and finally, there's one good RPG, JRPG, even though it's not the but JRPG, right, for the last, like, again, 30 years. They haven't even played, like, a single good game from that year, right, from just the last year alone. So there's another game that arguably is not the same genre even then, but Unicorn Overlord, which is arguably not a genre because it's heavily aligned on more strategy, right, but still would be a tactical JRPG. And this game is a lot better than 3, incredible, great gameplay, so on, right? But this game, again, is a game they haven't played, right? But I also bring it up because I want to iterate on that point, right? That these people don't even understand how vast this genre is, right? We have all of these different games in the JRPG formula that have some shared game mechanics, right? But they can be heavily on the tactic side, like this game, like Front Mission, what Fire Emblem, whatever, right? And then we have the other games more collectible, like Pokemon and so on. We have the games like Suikoden, which is the mixer, like Final Fantasy / Pokemon, right? We have the FF games, whatever, and so forth. We have the real-time games like Secret of Mana or whatever, so forth, right? We have the more weird Restless of Fate game, Dragon Story with the pseudo-reality game, Parasite Eve, yada yada yada, right? It's like 30 different sub-genres, right, to JRPG itself. And a very big main issue, right, with the 3 fanbase, why they're hating so much on the traditional Japanese games, right, is because, of course, they only, if only, they have played one JRPG, it is very likely to be Final Fantasy, right? They have never played Suikoden or Breath of Fire or Disgaea or Tales of Arcadia or xenogeras, oh my god, man, Golden Sun, whatever. They have no understanding of these other games existing, and like I said, they have, like, 20 different sub-genres, right, in the genre itself. So it's just absurd too to act like, oh, this is finally the only good turn-based game, even though it's more a dance game, again, rhythm game, right? And it's never been done before, even though it has been done before, like 20 times before, right? And so on. Or like the twist in the story or whatever. Oh my god, it is to Samarkand is literally the area where the picture is, and so on. Like, Jesus Christ, man. And in this video here, guys, I haven't even covered how predictable the story is, right? How, if you actually have played these games before, like FF10 or Saga 2, whatever, you will recognize all the story elements before from mostly Square Enix, so you will not be surprised by anything in the game because it's so incredibly predictable and just tropey, and it's just a GA drama, right? It's incredibly tropey. But I'll say it here very briefly. First of all, links below my previous video, I hope you're interested in that video, where I go over the storyline in great detail. And I will make another video in the future, guys, covering the whole Game of War, because I'm sure this game, unfortunately, probably will win, right? And that's going to be much more in detail with all the issues. But very briefly now, for context here then, the issue, right, with the storyline is if you've played these previous games, most best sample of this is, of course, Saga Frontier 2. Saga Frontier 2, you are playing as the main character. His name is Gustave, okay? The first woman to die in that game is Sophie, just like in the 3 and so on. It's ridiculous, okay? It has the exact same structure, twist and so on. And you can predict, and yes, Gustave also, just like in that game. So you can, it's like literally that they just stole straight up. Like, I have no problem saying that I'm pretty sure that the devs, the Major 3 stole from Square Enix in a lot of story elements. Because I've literally played, every Square Enix JRPG before this game, right? And I could see like, every story twist, because, yeah, I've seen it before in those games. Like, literally, same character name dying. 2 of them in the same game. I'm like, whoa. Okay, Tusanican, visuals, right? Patrons, whoa. Mia's music, clearly, FF10 music, right? It's stolen the song too, I would say. Like, it's so incredibly predictable if you actually play these games, right? That is one of the reasons I didn't like the 3 either, because the storyline is so bad if you have played these other JRPG games before, right? And that comes back, of course, to this terrible fan base. Obviously, they haven't played any of these games before. They haven't played, like, basically any of these games that has been released last 30 years, right? They haven't played even the other games either mentioned, Street Fighter or StarCraft or Tekken or whatever. They haven't played any other genre either, more or less, except, UBISLOP games, right? Also, a reason probably why they even fall in love with the whole 33, again, it's clearly an UBISLOP game, right? So, and so on, yeah. So it's kind of like, oh, they don't understand the tropes, right? I see every story element in 33 100 miles away, because I have seen them all before at least once, yeah, more than once of them. Some of them I've seen exactly the same. So I'm like, oh yeah, I understand 100% what's going to happen here. And the game always took the laziest route to 33. It's all a dream, so yeah, the laziest way to do it as well, right? Incredibly lazy. And having that, right, I say it doesn't work on a personal media. It doesn't work if you have, let's call it, game literacy. If you've played a lot of other role-playing games, 33 storyline would be terrible for you, basically, right? It only works on the noobs, right? It only works on the tourists. And it just makes these people even more obnoxious, because if you explain to them, no, the game was very predictable. I knew that X character would die, because he dies in the other game as well, with the same name, and she also dies in the same name in the end of Act 1. Like, literally, in this other game, Saga Frontier 2, spoilers now that Gustave dies too in Act 1 and Sophie dies in the end of the game. You're like, my god, it's the same, like, you're kidding me? It's the same character. It's even kind of similar vision when it dies. Like, are you kidding me? Is it homage or is it stealing it? You have a point. It's so incredibly obvious if you play these old games. You're like, oh yeah, but I've seen them before, right? Right? And again, these people, right, they look at this image here with the timeline, and they don't see all these other games in the timeline, so they're just like, no, this is super innovative, super fresh. You're like, no, it isn't. And honestly, lastly, my next video will be more in detail, but it's also very clear to me that these people haven't genuinely not played like RPG in overall, right? Because I've seen so many people, especially YouTubers, right, creators, being like, oh, this game is so sad, I've never seen the death scene before, blah, blah. They haven't seen it before, because they only play, sloppy, terrible games. If you, like me, grew up playing JRPGs, you have seen 5,000 billion death scenes before, right? Like, something new, but they're acting like 23 is amazing and unique, because they have sad death scenes, because they have melodramatic death scenes. I'm not kidding you guys. I'm just like, what, have you never seen a game before in your life? But sure, if you only play, like very, very simplistic action games, yes, you might not see it, right? And you'll never play in the story mode in those cases either. But it just seems really fun, right? But all of this together, this obviously then gives you like the worst fan base of all time, where the fan base is perfectly exemplifying the Dunning-Kruger thing, right? They know so very, very little, so they think they know everything, right? They know so incredibly little about what is a hard game, what is an actual challenging game, what all the other mechanics are, the storyline. They perfectly exemplify Dunning-Kruger. The reason Thing 3 is hard, there's a they defend the Simon fight, it's hard, whatever, because they never actually played a competitive game. The reason that the storyline 33 is not predictable, because they never read a book in their life, right, or played other games at the same time. There's the Thing 33 has a unique combat system. is of course because, again, they have not played any of these games before. So it's a perfect Dunning-Kruger game, and it ridiculously exemplifies the worst game fan base of all time. Anyway guys, like, subscribe, press the like button, and have a great day.